Now this right here, this is what I call the 7 challenging stages to getting sex. The 7 challenging stages to getting sex. Now, the reason why I felt this was even important to, I was debating if I should add this, but I was like, this is very important. I think guys really need to understand this. I had this actually like 3 years ago. I was gonna bring this out before, but I was like, you know, whatever. But I was like, this is the time because it's getting crazy out here. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this out and talking about this in detail is because what happens is that when you're going through your interactions with women, right? There's times where the interactions are gonna go smooth. Then there's gonna be times where it's just like, you're like, what the fuck's going on? And so what happens is each of these stages, when it goes through smooth, it leads to sex. But what happens is that within each stage, there's a risk involved which can stop you from getting sex, right? And now this is why a game is so important, because you have to be aware of each of these stages. So I'm gonna talk about each stage real quick. I'm gonna talk about how it will work when you go smoothly. Then I'm gonna talk about how it works when there are challenges for it. So I'm gonna just talk about the stages. So the first stage is approaching. The second stage is talking. The third stage is exchanging contact information. The fourth stage is contacting the girl. The fifth stage is setting up the date. The sixth stage is going on the date. And the seventh stage is sex, right? Now, this is usually the way that most guys do it when they're trying to either get sex or get a girlfriend or whatever. Usually you have to do this to get a girlfriend. You don't necessarily have to do this to get sex, but it's going to be challenging either way, and most guys do it this way. This is why I've shown this. I'm going to talk about how to skip some of the stages in a minute. Now, so I'm going to talk about how each of these go if it's smooth. So let's say you do stage 1, which is you approach a girl, right? Now you've approached her, then you start talking to her, right? And now she's being receptive to your talking, you're having a conversation, and she's feeling you. Then you say, okay, me and you should get together. Give me a number, here's my number. So y'all guys are exchanging contact information. She's like, cool, here's my number. Next thing you know, you contact her, you hit her up, text her, say, hey, we should get together. You hit her up on, either the contact can be either Facebook, Instagram, phone number, it doesn't matter. Right? Now, when you're contacting her, the fifth thing is you're setting up the date. So now you say, hey, let's get together and go out on Friday to get a drink at Main Street Bar. Right? So she says, cool, let's get together. Now, the sixth thing is she actually goes on the date with you. That she shows up to the date, y'all have some fun, you're building sexual tension, everything's great. Then the last stage is sex. Now, sex either happens on that first date or it could be at a later date, but this is the last stage of it, right? So now, if all of this goes smooth, it'll usually go smooth without any hiccups in between, right? Now, what I want to tell you now is how it's challenging, how each stage is going to be a challenge if it becomes a challenge, right? So now, I'm going to talk about the challenges within each stage, and this is how it stops you from getting sex, because remember, from one stage to the next, there could be something that goes wrong which makes you not get it. You see what I mean? And this is why it's important to understand this so you'll know what's going on in the situation. And again, this is why learning game is important, because you'll know, okay, at this stage I should do this, at this stage I should do that. Now, the challenges within each stage. Now, the first stage again is approaching. Now, what could be the challenges of approaching women? Fear. So if you're scared to approach women, forget about stage 2 through 7. None of this is going to happen. So you have to get over that fear to actually go and approach, right? Now, let's say you do get over the fear, and then you go and you approach a girl, and now you're in the talking stage, right? What are the challenges that come with the talking stage? She might ignore you, or she might walk away from you. Let's say you're in the street trying to talk to her, right? So again, you go to the next stage, and that's a challenge. Now, let's say she does talk to you, and you move on to stage 3, which is exchanging contact info. Now, what could be the challenge in that? She might reject you. She might say, no, I'm sorry, I have a boyfriend, I'm not really interested in all this other stuff. So now, you went through stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3, and it just stopped right there. So now it's not happening. Now, let's say you exchange contact information. She says, yeah, let's exchange contact information. And then you contact her. What's the challenge there? You can contact her, and she might not respond to you. You see what I'm saying? So are you seeing like through each stage, there's other things you got to deal with? Now, let's say she does respond to you. You try to set up the date. Now, this part is what tricks up a lot of guys. And I got to spend a little bit of time on this, right? So what is the challenge that can happen when you're trying to set up the date, right? The challenge is she might stop communicating. So what this means is this. You call a girl, you text her, you say, hey, you guys could have been texting back and forth. Hey, how's your day? Oh, it's fine, this and this and that. Then as soon as you say, hey, let's get together on Friday, we should get a drink or something, right? You don't hear from her. You're like, what the fuck is going on? What happened, right? Or even worse, and this really pisses me off, when you get to the point where you say, hey, let's get together, get a drink or something, she responds to you, but she responds to you about something else. So for example, I might say to a girl, hey, let's get together, get a drink. And she'd be like, oh, did you see that Black Panther movie? I'm like, I don't give a fuck about I like the Black Panther movie, I'm just saying. At that moment, I don't give a fuck about that. I'm trying to see if we get together and get a drink. Now, the reason why she's doing this is because what happens is that she's not really that interested in you. She likes your attention. She just doesn't like you. You see what I'm saying? So that's the challenge right there. Now, let's say the girl does, agree to set up the date with you, right? Now you move on to stage 6, which is go on the date. So what could be the challenge of going on a date? She could flake, right? Now, what happens is a lot of times you set up these dates, girls, they'll flake because of like the stuff I was saying earlier, like she's feeling a certain way. Even sometimes a girl will flake because she met another guy and that she liked better than you. And let me tell you guys something real quick. This is how crazy it gets. Where women will, let's say a girl meets me, right? And she's like, and I'm like, yeah, let's get together Friday. Let's do this. Let's make it happen, right? And then what happens is she meets, my man right here on Wednesday. He's like, yo, let's get together. Now, she likes him more than she likes me. So he says, let's get together the same day I'm supposed to get with her. So instead of her saying, hey, I have a date with Locario, she's going to kick me to the curb and go see him. You see what I'm saying? And so that's what they'll do, right? So that can happen where a girl will flake. Now, let's say the girl doesn't flake. You go on a date. Everything seems cool. And then we lead to sex. Now, what could happen with sex is a lot of guys think when you're about to have sex, it's a done deal. You understand? I usually say, because people always say, how do you know when you're going to have sex with a girl? I usually say, listen, in most cases, you only know when your dick is in a pussy. That's the only time you know. You understand what I'm saying? So usually, right? There's signs, but usually it's not. Now, the thing that could go wrong is she could change her mind, right? So I know some of you guys probably been in a situation, you got the girl over the house, all of a sudden she's like, oh, I don't know, I feel a certain way, right? I actually had a friend who, this is so funny, he had the girl over the house, they're both naked, they're on the couch, he puts the condom on, she's about to get on top of him. He said he feels the tip of his dick hit her vagina, and she jumps up and she's like, oh my God, I can't do this, I gotta go. And she gets up and puts on her clothes. And he got so mad, he took the condom off and threw it at her. I was like, that's hilarious. So don't do that, guys, don't do that. Don't do that stuff, that's not right. That's not right. So now understanding all these stages, right? Now understanding all these stages, right? What do you do? What's like, how do you get over this, or how do you make this easier for you, right? Now, the one thing you have to understand is